Okay, we're going to draw the meeting to an open, 6:01 PM. Welcome to the public board meeting. Let's start by acknowledging that we are privileged to meet on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Squamish and Squatliam nations. I think we had a agenda amendment. What were the amendments that we made?
Correspondence under information items and action items.
Oh, yes, student allocation system.
Yes.
And the stories of exclusion correspondence.
Yes.
So we're looking for a motion to accept the amended agenda.
That the amended agenda of this meeting be approved.
Thank you, Ian. Second by Rachel. All in favor? And carried. We have a set of minutes to be adopted. Thank you, Dave. Second? Ian, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. Another set there.
Summary minutes of the in-camera board meeting.
Thank you, Dave. Second? Thank you, Rachel. Favor? Carried. The chairperson does not have any remarks at this point. Are there any trustee remarks? Oh, seeing none, that brings us to our superintendent.
Okay, thank you. For the first announcement, I'd just like to recognize that staff and students who work together with Indigenous communities to learn more about colonization and residential schools in the week leading up to and including the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. The events were meaningful and honoring, and thank you to everyone. Here are just a few examples of some of the amazing things that happened in our schools. At Pemberton Secondary, they had an amazing week of drumming and smudging planned by their Indigenous leadership class. And on September 29th, they gathered in the gym to the best of their ability and made a circle with the Indigenous leadership team and the rest of the school. PSS had Kupi Jopal and Kupi Scout Uma, the cultural chief and political chief from Miwok Nation, speak to the students about listening to the stories and finding identity. The students did some more drumming, and that included the bear song and the canoe song, where students came down from the bleachers and participated in the dancing, with over 90% of the students on the gym floor having fun. At Stockmas here in Squamish, 4 elders from the community spent time in the classrooms throughout the day on September 29th. The students then gathered for an assembly where Charlene Williams ran a traditional ceremony honoring the day and the elders in attendance. Students made cedar headbands that they danced, and that's in quotation, danced to life. And following the assembly, there was a lunch with the elders in the Community Connections room. At Spring Creek Elementary, the school honored the Truth and Reconciliation Day with a school-wide assembly. And they did it with the Northern Elementary Schools and Pemberton Secondary. And this, of course, was done virtually. It was led by Tanina Williams with sharing of her story and how now we are at a point of moving forward together. The principals and vice principals from these schools shared what it means to be an ally of Indigenous peoples in moving forward on the journey of reconciliation. After this, a class from each school shared out what truth and reconciliation meant to them and some sharing of videos from Indigenous support workers. This event brought students and staff in the North together, and it was a very special event. So it was a great week in all of the schools. Last week, we acknowledged World Teacher Day, and we thank all of our teachers for the important work they do in educating and caring for all of our learners, and we appreciate it. And another thank you to our facilities and maintenance department. After we heard last week that they actually completed 40 major projects in the schools over the summer. Apparently that was an all-time record, so way to go and thank you. And finally, it was just great to see the legacy of Terry Fox continue in our schools. It was 40 years ago, last June, that Terry died. And it's our staff and students and communities too, of course, that continue to keep the dream alive through their school runs and their fundraising for cancer research. And it's just so great to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Were there any secretary treasurer remarks?
Nope, nothing for me.
Okay, thanks, Danielle. It looks like we don't have any delegations, but we do have a staff presentation. Sound Science Project by Brody Robbins, teacher at Staffness School. And I see Brody, you're online.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me here tonight. All right, thank you very much, Archdeep. I've got a timer on here for myself tonight, but feel free to give me the virtual curtain hook if I go over time. My name is Brody Robbins, and I'm here to talk about project-based learning at Staffness School. And you know what? Maybe Archdeep, maybe when I give you the pen, be our signal to go on to the next slide. So I wanted to talk to you about our model of project-based learning. Just give her a second to get set up here. At Staffness, we create engaging real-world projects that are culturally relevant and have an authentic audience. And why PBL? We believe that project-based learning builds real-world skills, connects students to community, and increases engagement with BC curriculum. Today, I'm going to talk to you about our PBL model, which is modeled after High Tech High, and use some recent projects we've created as examples, including, as you mentioned, Sound Science. One more. Thank you. The planning process. It starts with the kernel of an idea. Jeff Robin at High Tech High says that it's really important for projects to be led by a teacher's passion. If a teacher is passionate about a project idea, it's going to be infectious, and students are going to pick up on that. And so you start just in the real world with having an idea. And to contextualize the planning process, I'm going to be talking about our project from last year, U Radio, which was a podcasting project where students explored their identity through the art of storytelling. So for this project, the kernel of the idea was I wanted to get students engaged in making podcasts, and I wanted them to explore themselves through the oral storytelling tradition. Next, teachers at Staffness talk with their colleagues. They bring that kernel of an idea, and they have informal chats with teachers to see what they think and to see if it's a viable project to move forward with. And the next step is teachers we do the project. Another Jeff Robin idea, it's teachers do the project to workshop ideas, assess the viability of a project, discover pitfalls that students might run into, and also to learn necessary skills. So for U Radio, I actually made a podcast myself to present to the students, and it helped me learn all the software and kind of iron out any kinks that might have come up in the project. And I have a very short clip to play for you just from that. You can just click to the next slide and it should come up automatically. Thanks. I'm not hearing any audio, but that is okay. We can just move on from this one, that's fine. Thanks. Essentially, I made a podcast about why I became a teacher, and I used it to pitch the idea to my staff as part of the project tuning, which is the next step. In project tuning, you present a polished project plan to a chosen group of staff and experts. You bring in staff in the building or from outside of the building who have relevant expertise for critique. You come prepared with a project overview, a calendar, milestones, and curriculum ties. And for URadio, we always have Charlene Williams, our culture and language worker. If she's not a partner from the start of the project, she's always there as part of the project tuning. Her feedback for this project was she was concerned that having a podcast that was so intimate for students to talk about their own identity, students with trauma, especially she was concerned about some of our Skohopmish students, that she felt I should broaden the project to allow students to talk about cultural themes as a symbol for identity. And it actually, I took her advice, and it ended up being some of our Skohopmish students created some really beautiful podcasts. Next, you launch the project. You present to the students your example and all the instructions and curriculum ties for the project. You can see here on the left is one of our project posters. We create a project poster for every project that outlines the essential questions, project products, community connections, and all the curriculum ties, the learning targets. And this serves as a kind of cheat sheet for students to reference, but also for parents or any guest teachers and lecturers who come in to visit the classroom. Next, you have students actually do the project, and that starts with a series of pre-learning. This allows students to gain foundational knowledge and skills, have explicit curriculum connections, and be able to assess what students know and don't know. And for this section, I'm going to use our recent project, Sound Science, as an example. And you can see on the left, there's a picture of a student doing a science lab, exploring the ecological remediation of house sound, because this was a joint science and humanities project that had students study the science of house sound and blend science and traditional knowledge to understand the remediation process of house sound and ultimately make documentary films. And you can see on the right, there's a student who is studying filmmaking in preparation for making their own films. Next, we invite the community into the school. So we have experts in the field, guest teachers, elders, and knowledge keepers come in and teach the students relevant skills and industry knowledge so that they can make a final product that's professional and polished. And we also, it allows students to have exposure to various professions, as well as real world critique and feedback. Next, students actually plan and create their projects. The projects have real world deadlines. For instance, for Sound Science, students made a website to publish their videos, but also their documentaries are being submitted for national prizes. Students make their own calendars. They schedule in guests and experts. For instance, the picture on the right of your screen there is a group of students with the head engineer from Woodfibre LNG. These students made a film about the Woodfibre LNG, which is a really fair and balanced film, but they brought in the engineer and asked him some tough questions, but ultimately made a really great final product. And finally, the students create their product. Next, students critique each other's work. Students have multiple rounds of critique, and they have various styles of critique: pair, gallery walk, blind critique, and they also have experts come in to come and take a look at their work before they present it to the world. Finally, the most nerve-wracking and fun part is exhibition. Students showcase their work to as wide an audience is possible and appropriate for whatever medium their work is being presented in. And we always have exhibition at LEX, and that can be a more low stakes exhibition where we just invite family members in, or distributed globally. There's a video link here. I'm hoping we can get the sound working, but if not, no problem, but you'll just click the link there. And this is just a couple minutes from one of the students' final films that they exhibited called Akatsum. And it's a group of Scohomish students who made a film that blended traditional knowledge and science to explore the important cultural connection of the Scohomish to house sound, or Akatsum.
Stories. It is a place where they had to look out for protection. It's connected to the rivers, which bring us our main source of food, which is the salmon, the tsokwe. The forest, like you can't have a rainforest without, being close to where there's lots of rain and water, and that's near the ocean. And so it's all connected. The trees actually have salmon DNA in them, because the eagles carry the salmon from our main source of the rivers into the forest, and then the salmon fall. The forest, like you can't have a rainforest without, and so brings nutrients. That's why we have these big cedar trees, and so it's all connected. And so the trees actually have salmon DNA. All the trees actually have salmon because the eagles carry the salmon. Cedar weaving is connected rivers into the forest, cedar trees, and then the salmon fall. The forest, like you can't have a rainforest without, and so brings nutrients. That's why we have these big cedar trees, and so it's all connected. And so the trees actually have salmon DNA. All the trees actually have salmon because the eagles carry the
That's
salmon.
good. Thank you very much.
Is connected rivers into the forest, cedar trees, and then the salmon fall. The forest, like you can't have a rainforest without.
Okay, yes, I had one more section, but we'll skip that for now. But ultimately, the students exhibit their work, and it's a really rewarding experience for them. And if you want to see all those students' films, you can just go to soundscience.ca. That's all I have for you tonight. So does anyone have any questions?
Brody, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. It's Ian Kent. I just want to know, how old are the students doing the project-based learning?
This year we have students from grade 6 all the way up to grade 10. And last year was 7 to 10.
And one more question, if I can. How many PBL projects do you do in a year?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say we probably have about 4 or 5 main STEM PBL projects, as well as other smaller projects, in addition to, well, this year, what I'm calling foundations, which is, some like more traditional style classrooms that fill in all the bits of curriculum that couldn't be fit into the giant jigsaw puzzle that is planning the projects.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Go ahead, Celeste. No.
Hi there.
On the side, you guys push it.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
I had a chance on Monday to go onto the website and I was able to watch the wood fiber one. And I thought that the balanced approach that the students took to collecting information and the people that they chose to interview was so it was really, really thoughtful. And so I don't know, how much time you're able to spend coaching them on bringing different voices into a discussion and talking about bias, but it really did come through in that film in particular. The work that probably went into scaffolding that. I don't know if you want to talk a bit more about it. It was impressive though.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll be sure to pass that on to the students. That's teaching about bias and respecting and seeking varying perspectives, I would say is kind of baked into the ethos of our program. But especially when we are doing projects that involve having students' voices heard in the community, then a lot of that pre-teaching is about the ethics of filmmaking, the ethics of documentary filmmaking, and the ethics of interviewing and celebrating and seeking diverse perspectives.
You good, Celeste? Okay. Cynthia?
Hi, Brody.
Hi.
Hi. I'm just wondering if you could tell me a little bit about any changes that you saw in the kids as they started the project and worked through the project and then saw these incredible finished projects.
I mean, yes, definitely. Many changes. Overall, I would just say a sense of satisfaction and achievement. Projects, as all of us in the workforce know, any challenge like this can be pretty grueling, and the kids feel this like immense relief and satisfaction on exhibition. And then I would say after that, kind of the pride sets in, and students are really proud of their work, and they get all kinds of praise, not just just from their teacher or their parents who they receive praise from all the time, but community members. And yeah, it's a profound experience to see some of the changes in students, especially making these films. For instance, the realization students have about themselves and about their community and the connections they make by going out and being literally in the field. It's pretty special.
We'll be sure to pass along from at least me that they are tremendously capable individuals and that the work they produced was immensely impressive.
I will definitely pass that along. They'll be thrilled to hear that.
Paul, you had something?
Yeah, are you able to hear me, Brody?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I just want to commend you on this. Project-based learning is one of my passions. Over the years, I've been to High Tech High. I'm so excited about the work you're doing. Love that you had a project tuning process. Really appreciate that you're using those frameworks that provide the links to the curriculum. It's just so great. I guess the question that I have is, I'm just curious about the reflective process after your exhibition, how that was for students. Did they have an opportunity to think about what they learned, to talk about their competency development? Did they do peer feedback? Just wondering if you can comment on that.
Yeah, I didn't get to that in my presentation, but students always have a period of reflection after exhibition. Kind of when the dust settles, they depending on the project, it'll be reflective of the style and mode that they were learning. They could have an audio reflection, written reflection, or group discussion, and where I map it out, things like that. But there's always a period of reflection for sure. And as far as peer feedback, that's kind of baked into the critique process usually. But yeah, does that answer your question? Great.
Anyone else? Oh, well, it's been fantastic. Thank you for taking the time out to present to us. We're always very excited to see the work that's being done in our district.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time tonight. Bye.
You're welcome to stay on if you would like.
Oh, I have to run. I've got dinner to make. It's been a long day, as I'm sure many of
Yeah,
you
I-
appreciate.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Where am I? I don't see any trustee items. So that brings us to our board committees. The committee is the whole. So I can report out that the committee of the whole met earlier today. We went over some calendar changes for this upcoming year. And we also reviewed our adding the board education sessions. This is based on our board evaluation and some of the items that we wanted more information on. So we will be doing some BUDS person training. I'll have a session on IEP process, inclusion and experiential learning, and then a session on truth and reconciliation. We were also talked about the upcoming Remembrance Day assemblies. Unfortunately, most of those are happening on November the 10th, which is our next board meeting. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to participate or maybe some of the morning items. We also had a conversation about how to most effectively receive communications and respond to requests from parents and staff and any other who are interested and looking for information from the board. We will be having this on a future board meeting to have a little more in-depth conversation of what that will look like. I think that was it for the committee of the whole, unless I missed something. Nope. Okay, seeing nothing, then we have a set of minutes to accept.
That the minutes, of the committee of the whole meeting held on September 15th, 2021 be accepted.
Thank you, Ian. Second, Cynthia, all in favor? And carried. Policy committee, Rachel?
Yes. Today we just had one discussion item, and that was the 2021-2022 policies review schedule. We've added a meeting for February to address two new policies, our anti-racism and anti-ableism policies. These aren't written yet, but the board considers them as important policies, that they should be standalone policies under policy 104, our harassment and discrimination policy. And as part of the process, we'll be seeking input from students as well on this. And that was it.
Okay, thank you.
And I think there's a set of minutes and I can read those.
Yep.
That the minutes of the policy committee meeting held on September 1st, 2021 be accepted.
Thank you, Rachel. Second by Ian. All in favor? And carried. So that brings us to our Indigenous Education Council. We have not met yet this year, and we will be meeting, I believe it is next month. Was that? Oh, I missed one. Look at me. So Finance Committee. Anybody report on that? Me? For you? Yes, please.
Thanks, Rebecca. So at the Finance Committee meeting, I went over the Public Sector Employers Compensation Report, which is a report that discloses all the top 4 decision makers in each school district. Each school district is required to report on this. It gets publicly disclosed on the Ministry of Education's website. So that was the submission due last Friday. It's been submitted, and I'm not sure what date it's going to be disclosed, but that report will be disclosed to the public. And then we also went over the school funding allocation. So that's the allocation that is required for us to set the fall budget. So we will be having a motion for that shortly. And we also talked about the funding student enrollment. So that was just a brief update based on the initial numbers, and I will also be talking about that later on here when we talk about 1701. And that's pretty much it from the Finance Committee meeting.
Awesome, thank you. And there's a set of minutes there for us to accept.
That the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting held on September 15th, 2021 be accepted.
Thank you, Rachel. Second by Ian. All in favor? And that's carried. So Indigenous education, again, nothing to report. Public relations.
Hi, yes, we have something to report. We did meet this morning. We had an excellent discussion about creating some terms of reference for this committee. We also had a conversation around how this committee has grown in scope. Originally, it was struck to help assist with the development of the new website, and it's grown now through our trustee evaluation report to become a committee that's encompassing not only public relations, but also community engagement and communications. And then finally, we had a conversation about having a professional photographer come in and take some consistent photos of people who need to have their photos put onto our website. So those were the three main topics of the meeting this morning, and all in all, very good.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Nope. Early learning committee, is there anything on that? Is that you? as
Yep,
well?
that's me as well. And I just
Yeah.
have 3 brief points to make. The brief update is that we are moving through the process with the new licensing process with Vancouver Coastal Health. The preliminary draft of the family handbook is the preliminary draft. And we are just putting the finishing touches on the ECE job description and the job evaluation. And that's all we have from Early Learning Committee at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Were there any questions on that? Nope, seeing none. We move on to business arising, which is nothing, we don't have anything there. Information items, so COVID-19 update. Philip, are you there?
I am. Hi.
We are.
Just like to do a little bit of pause for dramatics there. So not much to update. The biggest thing that's different since the last board meeting was the K through 3 mask mandate has come through for the whole K to 12 sector. So again, the district and our principals have been notifying parents and staff of these changes, and we're working with everybody to it's a learning curve for some of the smaller kids to learn how to wear masks. There are still some folks that are exempt, but we're really just working with our teachers and staff and families on rolling through the mask mandate that was 4 to 12 into K to 3, and that process has been going really well. So that's really what I wanted to update everybody on. Again, the communicable disease plans are available on our school and district websites, and our principals send out weekly reminders about information items about anything that staff, families, students may need to know about. So that's all I got for that.
Okay, thank you, Phil. I think I will, is this a good place to add that? Oh, we have those, okay. Thank you for that. And I will move on to foundation skills assessment. And again, Philip, that's you.
That's me, yeah, the FSA. So it is currently the period where students in grades 4 and grade 7 write the foundational skills assessment known as the FSA. There's both a literacy and numeracy component to that. It is part of the suite of assessments that the Ministry of Education requires. There's also the grade 10 literacy and numeracy assessments that students take, as well as, I believe, the grade 12, this year is a grade 12 literacy assessment as well. Parents of grade 4 and grade 7 students have all received an email about what the FSA is. It takes students typically about 3 to 4 hours to complete, so we do it in small chunks over time. It's required by all students, grade 4 to 7. At the end of the assessment, it is scored, and that feedback is given to both students and students, teachers, and families get all that information. And it is just one of the many pieces of data we use to triangulate to see how our students are doing. It is not something that goes on their report cards, but it is a valuable just data set that we use. Kind of important to note that School District 48 has one of the highest participation rates in the FSA in the province. So that really helps us use that data to compare to some of our other school level data on literacy and numeracy. So we're humming along with that. It should be done. I forget what the final date is, first or second week in November. And that is the FSA.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Phil. So that brings us back to the 1701, our item BC, 1701 update. Danielle?
Thanks, Rebecca. So I just specifically wanted to go over the schedule for 1701s. So just so everybody knows, 1701s is the snapshot in time that we take for student enrollment, and the snapshot date this year was as of September 29th. And then October 8th is, we have up until October 8th to make a few adjustments in case we're missing some information. So we do work with the school clericals to update any information before we send it over to the ministry. And so once we have that up to date as possible, we send it to the ministry on October 8th. So then the ministry compares with their files, and they also check with other districts to see if there's any duplications and whatnot, if there's any error, something that looks funny. And they will let us know by October 15th if there's any issues so that we can adjust our submission. And then we have up till October 22nd to fix anything that is an error or is a duplicate. We have up until October 22nd. And then October 25th, we're required to have sign-offs from us, sign-offs or emails to us, the districts from the ministry. And they're hoping to have them signed off by us back to them on October 29th. So that's just the dates I just wanted to point out on how the 1701 schedule works. So right now we're October 13th. So we're hoping to get that, we will be getting that report from the ministry hopefully this Friday.
Okay, and when is that being reported out to the public? November meeting?
Yeah, I think we said that, it makes more sense for us to put it at the November meeting because the numbers will be finalized by then. Right. So that's when we can expect to hear another update on the 1701 at the next board meeting in November.
Okay, thank you. Were there any questions on the 1701? Okay, no, seeing nothing. Thank you, Danielle. So that brings us to the Bracadale Sea to Sky Community Service contract, the sign on property.
Ian, do you want me to speak to that one?
Sure. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I'm happy to speak to it. I mean, okay.
Yeah, so we just had an amendment to one of our contracts, and we noticed in the contract itself, and this contract is for one of our not-for-profits who's using one of our spaces as a playroom. And we noticed that in the contract, it says that the operator shall not install or erect any sign on the school property other than the interior ones within the licensing area without prior written consent of the principal of the school and the board. And so the principal just pointed out to us that they actually had put a sign up in just on the fencing, and we just wanted to run it by the board and let them know that there is a sign there. You can actually see it. It's already up, but we just wanted to notify you that that has happened because that's what the contract states, is that we have to notify you that there is a sign up.
Okay,
That's all. So it's more of an information item.
okay. Any questions or comments on this? Nope, seeing none. Looks like we have, there's a couple of attachments for your review, a media report, a field trip report. There's a letter attached, some correspondence we received from Jen Shar, and that is attached. So that brings us to items for discussion. So CA, procurement of telecom services for school districts. And that looks like it's you as well, Danielle.
Okay, so the Ministry of Education, or sorry, I believe it's the Ministry of Education has emailed all of the secretary treasurers, and they're looking for support from all school districts to proceed with doing a mass procurement of telecommunications. So this would be for internet connectivity, voice data, and mobility services. And so the reason that they want to take this approach is to take advantage of economy of scale. The more school districts you have, the better bargaining power you have, and then hopefully you get better service out of that as well. So by agreeing to sign off on this, it doesn't commit us to anything. It just says that we will participate in going forward with them. So I just wanted to see if the board supports. I don't want to sign it until, I want the board support, but they're okay with us proceeding with this.
Ian agrees. Dave, is there any objection to us exploring this further? No.
Great.
Green light, Danielle.
Green light.
Green light.
Okay, and I think we have a that recommendation.
I can go ahead and make that recommendation. That the Board of Education approves SD 48 being part of the voice data ability services procurement that the province is pursuing on behalf of all school districts.
Thank you, Cynthia. And Ian seconds. All in favor? And there we go. Thank you. Okay, so next up we have the flag lowering policy, and Marilyn is going to speak on that for us.
Okay, so this is a discussion item for the board. In previous times in history, I think us in the school system had very specific times we thought the flag would be lowered. I remember distinctly when Pierre Elliott Trudeau died, the flag was lowered. We were given instruction when it should go down and when it should go up, and that would have been from the Ministry of Education. So they were on very specific terms. And at this point in time, through the summer and through the period that we've gone through with the discovery in Kamloops, et cetera, and as we approach the period of reconciliation and truth on September 30th, we actually found out that boards actually have the ability to create their own policy on flag lowering. So it can be contextualized to a local school district. The only thing the School Act really says is that we have to have a flag, and that we have to fly one in front of the schools in the school board office. So right now, you might notice our flags are still at half-mast. They have for a long period of time because we have been, as staff, been in consultation with our Indigenous partners in both the North and the South. And we've had some discussion, but we've had no real mechanism to say we'd like to raise the flag again. And it's not just staying down there because we don't know what to say, but we are still, according to people that we've been talking to, still in a period of mourning. So it would be good for the board to have a discussion about flag raising and lowering, and then eventually take it to staff to go for a policy. So it's just an opportunity to ask questions and discuss it right now.
Did anybody want to, have any comments on, thoughts on it?
I was hoping it was going to be something that be standardized. Someone might be quite concerned. This flag flying here. Thank you. Another one lowered, and it just seemed as if there's inattention being paid to what was happening. And I think the flag is so important, and sometimes we lose sight of how important the flag really is. So anyway, that doesn't help because I wanted it to be standardized, but
Yeah, no, I understand that. Is there any, ministry said anything about it or weighed in, or have we asked?
Yes, we've been in contact. In fact, after our contact with the ministry, Karen LaRochelle was in contact with them and her district partner there. This is where it was kind of discovered that we can make our own policy. And then they subsequently sent a memo out to all of the districts. So it was actually in Pemberton that it was brought to our attention because of the inconsistency, flags up and flags down. And then we started to dig a little deeper and found out that we can make our own policy about this. And yeah, so it was because of the inconsistencies. And for some folks, the flag is just the flag. And for other people, the flag is really important. And that others see the link to a colonial period of time. Others are saying, it's a symbol of all of Canada. So I think the policy might take a little while to get there, but I think the discussion is the most important thing. And it's not out of neglect that the flags are still down, Dave, just so you know that. It was really a thoughtful response, whether we keep them down or not. And even precluding this policy development, we'll have to have some consensus on when they should come up anyways. But I hope that helps.
Ian, you have something?
Can we have some time to reflect on it? Like suddenly now getting hit with it, I'm thinking, oh, it's an important policy. I agree with David.
I'm sure others are a historian in the room, but before we did really think we were locked into this. We're told when the flag goes down, we're told when the flag comes up. And I can remember some really significant incidents in communities where people thought the flag should come down but to reflect the community's sorrow at that time. But we couldn't do it because we had that belief that we had to kind of take our orders from up on high. So I think, looking at some kind of community context or something like that through policy, and yeah, I think it is something that kind of takes you by surprise. So for sure, from my point anyways.
Rachel?
Yeah, to your point there, Marilyn, with the regards to communities, I think that we would have to be on, in consultation and be doing the same thing as the municipality, for example, and the school district, so that we're not having flags up and down. So but as Ian said, I'd like a bit more time to reflect on it as well.
Thanks, Rachel. Anyone else?
Bothers me is when you've got an old tattered flag and hasn't been replaced.
Do we have some of those?
I'm not sure if it was on any school property, but yes, there was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to check on that. Anyone else? No? So, that was a two-parter there. So regarding the policy, do we know if like the Village of Pemberton and Whistler and Squamish have their own policy in respect to flag raising?
I'm not aware of that, but I did hear anecdotally that some of our communities, primarily in the north, were more standardized. But I wouldn't say there's consistency and maybe not even knowledge. Maybe they feel the same information that we've had before. And when we were at the ceremony in Squamish, I was kind of watching to see, is the municipality's flag down, or when's it gonna go up? And just wanting to be consistent. So maybe that's another thing we could talk about with our liaison with our municipalities. That's also on our agenda coming up too.
Or we develop a policy and we share it with them,
Mm-hmm,
the municipalities and districts. Might be a thought.
mm-hmm.
And then the other piece in respect to the flags being down right now, I think, I agree with Rachel that this needs to go, we need to talk to our Indigenous partners. It's a very sensitive issue. So our flags have been lowered for the interest of the public. Were lowered after the residential school discoveries. So that they have been down since. And we just need to determine when they will go back up, and I think we need to engage.
So we have reached out to our Aboriginal communities and most have replied, but not all. We haven't been able to reach everyone. And at this point, the request has been from the people we've heard from, and they're all community specific, that the flags stay down.
Indefinitely?
Well, that's the thing, right? We have to be, when is the period? When does it go back up?
Yeah.
So, for example, we have Remembrance Day coming up. Is it a policy or a time where sometimes the flag is lowered at that time? In which case it would need to be up beforehand.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to ask that question as well.
Yeah.
Because indefinitely down, then it loses some of the meaning, I think.
Mhm.
But then what do you do, like you say, with Remembrance Day or any other situation that arises?
That's correct.
Yeah, it's difficult for sure. But for the policy development, it sounds like we maybe need to do a bit more homework and see if the communities have any existing policies.
Okay, that sounds good.
And
Wanna
maybe
say
we can
anything?
leave it a standing item then, so that we can reflect and come back with our thoughts at the next board meeting. Public meeting.
The Legion probably has something.
They would definitely have something there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on this topic? Okay, seeing none, policy motions, we do not have any. Action items, so this is the late addition, so the district budget overview. Danielle, you're the star of the night.
I think this is just
Is your mic on?
Thanks. Yeah, I think this is us. We were just gonna have the motion to adopt that. Is that in the minutes there or no? Or sorry, is that on the agenda?
No, there is a motion there, but it may be for the public's interest, you can speak to what the school funding allocation is and the funded student enrollment.
Yeah, sure, I can do that really quickly.
Just a brief
So-
overview.
So, we've done the calculations. I should take this off. We've done the calculations for this year. This is what we're going to be doing our fall budget based on. So that what we're going to be receiving for ministry funding per pupil will be $7,885 per student. And then because the way we budget is each school has their own budget and manages their own budget. So out of that funding, the $5,250 of that will go to the schools per pupil. And the rest of the funding, the difference between the two, the per pupil and allocation to the schools, is to pay for iterant teachers or counselors, that kind of thing for students. And then also we've done the calculation for standard costs of a teacher for this year. So based on the change in cost of living, the increases for this year, the average cost of a teacher will be $105,611 for a student, or for, sorry, our school district. Yeah, so basically for us to put in the budget allocations to each individual school, we need to have these rates approved by the board. And then until then, we can't allocate out the funds properly. So that is why we need to have this approved today at the board meeting.
Awesome, thank you. Are there any questions? Pretty straightforward, I think. So we have a recommendation. Prepared to make that?
I can make that recommendation that the Board of Education approve the amended school allocation system as presented.
Thank you, Cynthia. Second by Rachel. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So that brings us to items we brought out of camera. I know it shows nil there, but we do have an item. And this is in regards to the COVID vaccine mandate for staff. The board, this announcement was made last week. The board was, it was very new to us as well. And we just want to say that we will continue to seek guidance from the BC School Trustees Association, Vancouver Coastal Health, and any other pertinent partner groups. And we're also waiting for the provincial framework to be established prior to making a thoughtful and informed decision. So we've had some preliminary discussions today, and we'll continue to do so, and we'll bring it forward when we have a plan or a decision. So that was for items to be brought out of camera. We don't have any bylaws, so we are now at questions of clarification from the public. Do we have?
We do have some. So I just want to mention, so if anybody has any questions for us, please email us at board@sd48.bc.ca. And we do have some questions, so I think we will start getting to them. If I just read them out.
Yeah, I
Chris,
can't get
are you-
into it. So
Okay. Let me just see what we have here. Okay, so we do have a question on the policy review for policy 108 anti-ableism. So asking how the members can be part of the review consultation. Do we have answers to that somewhere?
we're going to speak to that, Chris? Okay.
Yes, thank you. I can speak to that. I'm just going to remove my mask as well for clarity. That's a lot better. Excellent. So thank you very much. The question came from Jen Sharp, and apologies that we're not projecting it on the screen. So again, it's in regards to policy 108 and ableism that was spoken about today during our policy meeting. And it is again, as this policy is scheduled for review in February 2022, how will the district ensure that disabled community members are part of the review consultation process? So just to assure the center and the public that when we have a new policy, so first of all, this is a standalone policy due to the board's support for its importance, that we will always engage in a consultation process where we call that, it goes out for impact. So first of all, once we do have a draft policy, everyone in community will have the opportunity to respond and provide feedback. However, prior to that, through the board, we will have a number of strategies in place that we will discuss that hasn't been established yet, but be sure that there will be strategies to again, ensure that there's opportunities both for student voice, for members of the community, especially those members to which this policy is to support. So that's to come. So we'll just ask for your patience, and we'll be sure to share that out when those opportunities to be engaged are provided, and they will be. And I think if I may, there's a similar question that was also proposed by another member. And I will just speak to the second part. I think the first part was answered about the process. The second question was, will it, meaning the proposed anti-ableism policy, be brought through the DPAC Inclusion Committee for comments? And that was from Suzanne Pardo. Suzanne, again, will ensure there's ample opportunity for input, and absolutely the DPAC Inclusion Committee would be a perfect venue for that input, because we really do want to hear from those parents who are given their time to be on that committee. So I hope it answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And I think I'll just throw it out there as a little reminder that the purpose of this portion of our agenda is to ensure that the public has the opportunity to ask questions relating to an agenda topic from the public meeting from the evening. And that we will try to answer, and if it's a lengthy response, then that will most likely be going, it will be an individual response from the board or from staff. So, and I think that is it. Is that it for questions?
I think we had a few more, but I just can't find them right now. Chris, do you have access to them? Can you read them out?
I do, thank you. And,
Yes,
and I
sir.
know
Thank you.
we'll be asking Phil to respond to the question. We have a couple questions about the 1701, which are on the agenda. So the questions have to do again with how many designated learners were reported on the 2021-1701 form, how much supplemental funding is being brought into the district by these learners in 21-22, how is supplemental designation funding distributed within the district and schools, and where, oops, I just lost it. Where did it go? I think, did someone do a refresh?
Archie
Oh my goodness.
highlighted it.
Where?
I'm sharing the screen
Oh.
now, so.
Okay. I'm on my own screen, so let me go back to the Zoom so I can see where I was. Can you scroll down? And I'll move my Zoom folks. Where is the supplemental designation funding accounted for in the general budget? So Phil, did you want to take those ones in terms of?
Yeah, so I think it was mentioned before, we're gonna need time to get that depth of response in the November board meeting. So absolutely, the majority of that can be answered then. We can talk about our decentralized funding allocation system, much similar to what Danielle spoke of for designated students, not just the per pupil funding. I can tell you broad strokes, this number won't be exactly accurate, but from the original snapshot, we had 555 students with a ministry special education designation. So that can be anything from deaf, blind, all the way through to a learning disability, autism. We will go through the broader categories with the board in November. So we're at about, give or take, 555 students. That's an increase of about 50 students since last year. And I'm happy to do a deeper analysis on that with the team. And again, talking about the allocation, talking about the ministry policy behind all of this, and how much more money the district provides beyond what we get in targeted funding for special education. So we can crunch all those numbers and get that to everybody as we had said for the November meeting. But those are just some preliminary pieces of information.
Thank you. You have some that, Chris?
Just through the chair, there was a number of other questions based on committee meetings today. So I think we, again, as you mentioned, wanted to share that those questions we're answering tonight are from the open board meeting, but that we will, I don't know if we wanted to read the questions or not. They were up on the screen, but we will be getting back, as you said, to the sender of those questions at a later date, because we did just receive them during the course of our board meeting. So we'll just ask for the grace for time to respond.
Yeah, and that follows along the lines of what we've indicated on what our this portion of the agenda is about. So staff or board will be responding with a full in-depth response to those questions. So thank you, Jen, for sending those in to us. And then I think well, you already answered this, the second parter from Suzanne. So I think that's everything. Yep. Comments?
Yeah, I'm just checking. There's no other questions that have come in. So,
Okay, well, thank you.
but maybe we may just wait a couple minutes just to make sure because there's a bit of a lag.
Nothing new?
Nope, nothing so far.
You good to go?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Good to go.
It's been open for a bit, so. We're good. So just looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, Dave. Second. Cynthia. All in favor? Good job, guys. Meeting adjourned, 7:08.